Hi, my name is Alana Kennedy. I designed my lesson plan for a 6th grade class. My standard is actually a 5th grade standard. It's 5 MBT 3, read, write, and compare decimals to the thousandths. My student's ABCD objective is the student will construct models of decimal numbers using base 10 blocks, correctly modeling at least 16 out of 20. The literature that I chose to integrate is not actually a children's book. It comes from a website called the Alabama Learning Exchange, and there are stories about centipedes. Carlos the centipede is one of the characters, and I thought that the centipede stories would relate well to decimals because centipedes have 100 legs. This activity is called Decimal Draw out of our hot kit, and it requires the base 10 blocks. And I was actually able to conduct this activity with the 6th grade class that I'm interning in. We're using it as kind of a review of place value and decimals, and they're getting ready to work into fractions. And the reason why we thought this would be a good activity is because it does show the relationship between decimal numbers, fraction numbers, and even continues on to percentages. One of the things that I did to help students with the key terms was create a decimal draw vocabulary sheet. I shared this through Google Docs. Each child in our district has an iPad. We also have district email, which is our 443 mail, and so I was able to create a student list and then share the link to this document with all the students in our class before class actually started, so they were able to open up the decimal draw vocabulary on their iPad. Also, before the class, I shared their content objectives, which was the 5 MBT3, and I explained to them that we were going to be reviewing place value and decimal numbers. As a warm-up activity, we actually looked at the base 10 blocks. First, we looked at the flat, which is the 10 by 10 square. We worked together to determine that the flat was equal to 1.00, which is the whole number 1, and anything that was less than the whole number 1 could be represented by shading in the model on their decimal draw activity sheet, which is here. The students were already divided into groups of 4. This is how they're grouped regularly. It's done that way so that they can communicate and share with their groups, and that was actually one of the objectives of this lesson as well, was to work cooperatively within the groups and be able to justify their reasoning as to why they modeled the number as they did. After about the first 2 or 3 minutes, I asked the students to hold up their red, yellow, or green slips to show me their understanding of the task. For any students that held up red or yellow, I made sure to stop by their groups and discuss with the whole group, not just the individual student, the process for identifying what the place value of the number and using that to determine the decimal model. In addition to allowing students to model on their worksheet, they were also able to use their iPad if they wanted to. There's 2 applications that we use. The first is ScreenChomp, which I'm showing. And the next is EduCreations. So students were able to model in any way that made it easy for them and their groups to understand. They could also use the physical representations of the base 10 blocks. Towards the end of the lesson, I passed out index cards and encouraged the students to ask any questions or give any comments about the lesson. At the end, I collected those and we answered them as a whole group. My rubric for assessment was as follows. I assigned 20 problems, which ended up being more than most groups were able to complete, so that would be something that I need to reevaluate if I was going to do this lesson in the future. But originally my rubric was exemplary was 20 out of 20, exceed standard was 18 or 19 out of 20, meet standard would have been 16 or 17 out of 20, approaches standard would have been 11 to 15 out of 20, and 10 or fewer would have been academic warning. And I would use these results to go back and reteach as needed.